We like to get started by getting our consciousness in a sacred spot, and we do that by making the sound of Om together. So let's take 3 conscious breaths. And with the deep in breath, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. On this beautiful, beautiful day, we're gathered to study reality just ahead. And today we're going to study, there are 2 realities. You probably thought there was just one. We're going to look at 2 realities. What does that mean? Our text is going to be the Bhagavad Gita, the sacred scripture from India. And the translation of it is the Song of the Lord. The Song of the Lord. We'll be looking at commentary by the Guru, who is now passed, Satchidananda. Satchidananda, who actually has an ashram south of Charlottesville, Virginia, in a place called Yogaville. And you can go there and study all the various aspects of yoga, including postures. So let's start right off with one of the slokas, or verses, from the Bhagavad Gita. It is impossible to practice yoga effectively if you eat or sleep too much or too little. Here in the West, when we hear practice yoga, we think of going to yoga class and doing postures, dog pose, shavasana, and so on. However, the ancient meaning of yoga is, it's related to the English word yoke, or union, or unity. Unity with God is the ancient meaning of yoga. So yoga is all the practices to achieve unity with the divine, which includes the Hatha yoga postures, also includes breathing practices, and includes meditation. And as we do in unity, training our mind to think the thoughts that serve us best and allow us to be of service to others. So yoga encompasses a lot. The scripture says it is impossible to practice this yoga effectively if you eat or sleep too much or too little. But if you are moderate in eating, playing, sleeping, staying awake, and avoiding extremes in everything you do, the middle way. This was also taught by the Greeks, wasn't it? It's part of the Buddhist tradition, the middle way. Eating, playing, sleeping, staying awake, avoiding extremes. You will see that these yoga practices eliminate all your pain and suffering. Wow, that's quite an assertion, isn't it? Can any of you think of a time when you suffered? You experienced suffering in your life. I can think of a time when I suffered or experienced pain. Not that yoga can take away the pain itself, but perhaps allow us to experience it in a different consciousness. So let's go back and see what that said again. It says, if you're moderate in eating, playing, sleeping, staying awake, and avoiding extremes in everything you do, you don't have to experience suffering anymore. That would be nice, wouldn't it? No more suffering. We can hold our past suffering in a new light, and also we don't have to be worried or fearful of future suffering. The Sloka says, if we are moderate. Actually, there's some other things we need to do as well, but this is important. These practices eliminate all your pain and suffering. Here's a commentary by Swami Satchidananda. He says, in simpler language, yoga is the middle path, moderate in everything. You have everything on this middle path, including peace of mind and tranquility. What is peace of mind? What is peace of mind for you? How do you know when you're experiencing peace of mind? How do you know? How do you know the difference between experiencing peace of mind and not peace of mind? And you think of some times when your mind was just really busy, running around here and there, a little bit worried about something that was coming up, or perhaps having some regrets about something that happened, maybe just a while ago, or maybe even regrets about something that somehow popped up in your mind that happened years and years ago. And you feel that sadness for something that happened years and years ago. The practice of yoga, according to Satchidananda, is a way to experience continual peace of mind, no matter what comes up for you. Fearful thoughts of the future, how can you have peace of mind with those? Some regrets or some angst about something that happened in your life that just doesn't really sit well with you. Peace of mind and tranquility, that's the promise by adopting the yoga practices. And the yoga practices include more than just the middle path, but he's focusing on the middle path now. Middle path, moderate in everything. You have everything, including peace of mind and tranquility. By eating too much, you just satisfy the body and the senses. I don't think we're even aware, no, I'm not, that when I am eating sometimes, I'm just satisfying my senses. I don't really identify with my senses, taste and tummy and so on. I'm just in the habit of eating. Actually, I've gone on a new practice recently where I do some fasting. And the following day, when I begin eating again, thank you God, I'm able to experience my senses desiring the food. And I'm able to experience my senses wanting more food because the senses didn't get any yesterday. I was fasting. So that's a first for me. I've never really actually experienced it. By eating too much, you just satisfy the body and those senses. This means you identify yourself with your body and the senses. And we do. I'm not so sure that we identify with our body and senses consciously. Rather, unconsciously, we do. And the people in our lives identify with the body and senses and talk about it, so it seems like reality. Reality to identify with the body and senses. Remember, we're heading towards talking about two realities. So one is experiencing, identifying yourself with the body and senses. For this to make more sense than just an intellectual concept, we actually have to have an experience of ourselves, identifying with the body and senses. Maybe I'll think of something as we go along so we can have a little exercise. You identify with the body and senses and you just want to satisfy them. Again, maybe it's just habitual. It's not, oh, I'm going to satisfy my body and senses by going and having a pizza today. Rather, it may be just sort of something automatic in your life, something you've never really focused on or spent some energy on. So these scriptures bring some new opportunities to light of things we might want to focus on in order to get a deeper understanding of ourselves and perhaps push us a little more along towards the path of inner peace and tranquility. By not eating, you don't satisfy the body, he says, but you may satisfy your ego. I'm not so sure this is much of an issue for us in the Western culture, but in the culture Satchidananda comes from, in India, fasting is something that is more common, especially as a spiritual practice. By not eating, you don't satisfy the body. The senses don't get the food, but you may satisfy the ego. Look at me, I fasted for the past 2 days. Look at me, you may have those thoughts. I changed this. The original said, look at me, I fasted for 10 days. That's hard for us to imagine. I made it 2.
It is hard.
Actually, it could be 1. Look at me, I fasted for 1 day. It could be an ego thing. And that's just another form of ego satisfaction, just as overeating is. All right. Instead, a yogi should have a purpose in eating. Now, who is a yogi? Who is a yogi? We are. We're all yogis. To some extent, we're all on a spiritual path at different places in the path. And we all have certain spiritual practices we do, maybe a little, maybe a lot. Probably coming here to Unity and participating in the services and sermons is a spiritual practice for many of us. So that's what a yogi does. A yogi should have a purpose in eating. All right. Who wants to share what your purpose in eating is?
Stay alive.
Stay alive.
Make your body function properly.
Make your body function properly. Good. Stay alive and make your body function properly. Any other purposes in eating? Something that's really tasty that you really like.
And you just incorporate it into something tasty.
Tasty. Have it be tasty too.
Yeah.
Something, maybe your favorite food. I know for some people their favorite food is chocolate. Right, Janice? Chocolate. So one purpose in eating is to have the pleasure of eating chocolate. It tastes so good and we look forward to it. You should have a purpose in eating, a purpose in sleeping. Do we have a purpose in sleeping, or do we just go sleep? Or maybe not sleep? What happens when we don't sleep? What's our purpose? If we're not sleeping, can we remember what our purpose in sleeping is? What's the
be
purpose?
refreshed.
be refreshed. What else?
Oftentimes we're detoxing when we're sleeping, and increasing the nourishing aspect.
Detoxing, nourishing. They've run experiments on college students where they deprive them of sleep. You heard of that?
Mm-hmm. Or in our own lives, we can experience that moment.
Well, what they do actually is they allow the students to go to sleep. But they know that REM, rapid eye movement, is a signal of a special kind of healing sleep. And they're able to sense when rapid eye movement starts. So these students have volunteered that whenever rapid eye movement starts, they have to wake up. What happens after a day or two? They get very irritable and fatigued.
They need to dream.
They need to dream. Rapid eye movement is associated with dreaming, yes. So there's some healing property associated with sleep. So do we think about that when we sleep? Ah, this is my purpose, to be healed. Yogis should have a purpose in sleeping, and actually a purpose in doing everything. What comes up for you when you're asked, do you have a purpose in everything you do? You don't have to, but is it something that came up for you? What's the purpose in everything I do? Satchidananda says, you should, you ought, the moral imperative, to have a purpose. Everything you do. That opens up some possibilities. Now he'll have some suggestions there for a purpose to subscribe to in order to further you along on your spiritual path. Purpose. A yogi should have a purpose in eating, sleeping, and in doing everything. And eating and sleeping are just two examples of where we need a purpose. We're heading towards two realities, right? That's the topic of the talk. Good morning, welcome, come in. Take a good seat, we're all good. We're talking about, or heading to talk about two realities today, two realities. And we've been talking about choosing a moderate way of life, moderate in eating, moderate in sleeping. Satchidananda says, this is interesting, you don't have a need to satisfy the body, the senses, or your own ego. Sam and I have actually been participating in courses called Be Peace, or the Connection Practice, where we help people get in touch with feelings associated with situations in life. What are feelings? Sadness, happiness, anger. Those are all feelings, aren't they? And sometimes feelings can get in the way of the way we like to lead our lives. And other feelings take us over. And afterwards, we're not comfortable with ourselves because those feelings pushed us in a direction that we're not comfortable with. So we learn in Be Peace and the Connection Practice how to identify feelings with needs. With needs. So for example, if you're feeling happy, you may have satisfied your need for connectivity, being with other people, being among those who love you and whom you love. If you're feeling sad, you may not have satisfied your need for safety. Feeling not safe, feeling sad about that. In these practices, we learn all the various feelings that we might experience so we can name them, not just have them. And then we learn a lot of different needs that are associated with the feelings. And by getting cognizant of what the needs are, somehow it helps us process the feelings in a higher light and go more towards that goal Satchidananda talked about, peace of mind and tranquility. These are wonderful practices at a particular stage in our spiritual life. Learning to get more in touch with our feelings. Men, historically or traditionally, perhaps Western men, are not so much in touch with feelings. Women sometimes notice this in men, they're just not in touch with their feelings. I think I've always been in touch with my feelings, but I know men who are not too much in touch with their feelings. So the connection practice, be peace, helps men admit, well, I've got this feeling. It's okay. It's human. It's natural. And then associating it with a need. Various kinds of needs. Of course, our most basic needs are the need for food, the need for sleep, and the need for love. The most basic needs. If you take away a baby's ability to satisfy its hunger, or sleep, or love, the baby doesn't develop properly, does it? We know cases like this. Children in orphanages are never held in love, don't develop. And of course, the babies need to be changed as well. So that's a different kind of need. I spent a little time discussing feelings and needs because at a particular stage in our spiritual life, it's very important to come into realization of our feelings as they show up and our needs. It's also important when we experience other people having feelings and needs, and that somehow impacting us, or we feel called to do something. Someone's having a strong feeling, maybe grieving, because they have a need for the companionship of the person who is no longer here. And they express that feeling to us. What are we called to do? Sometimes we don't behave appropriately and empathetically to support that person. We might say, for example, oh yeah, my mother died. I know just how you feel. Which actually doesn't support the person very much. They're not interested in how you feel when your mother died. No, they're having their own grief. They're experiencing their own grief. They want to hear some support for their own grief. Get the difference? So in our societal interactions, we learn by habit some ways of dealing with others' emotions that aren't very supportive. And one of the teachings in BP, or the connection practice, is how we can support others who are going through some intense feelings without taking them away from our having experience what we're experiencing. For example, by saying, wow, I see you're feeling very sad, feeling, I'm guessing you're really missing the companionship of so-and-so, identifying the need. See that? The person having the feeling wasn't really so much in touch with the need. So we can support that person by affirming the feeling they're feeling. We don't tell them, oh, you shouldn't be feeling sad. Everybody dies sometime or other. That wouldn't be very kind. So we can learn how to support others. Like, got it, you're feeling really sad because you miss the companionship of the others. So this practice of feeling needs is very powerful. Got it?
Mhm.
We just touched on it here. We could spend the whole rest of the hour discussing the connection practice. Now here's Satchidananda coming to tell us that there's a whole other space we can enter into after we have come to terms with feelings and needs. So he used the word need. You don't need to satisfy the body, the senses, or your own ego. Not really, although it's very useful to be in touch with those feelings and needs. You don't need to satisfy them. But what he's saying is, do it just for the joy of doing it. So when you're hungry, rather than thinking about, oh, I'm doing my body a good turn by nourishing it and satisfying the need, he's suggesting, no, come from a deeper reality. Eat for the joy of eating. Sleeping. I need to sleep, so I rested and not my normal irritable self. No, my normal friendly self. I need to sleep. Well, he's suggesting there's another consciousness, another reality we can be aware of. Do just sleep just for the joy of sleeping. So it's a lot to hold in our consciousness. He says if you do live your life, everything just for the joy of doing it, then you maintain your yoga. Yoga in this sense is union with the divine. You maintain your constant awareness of union with the divine if you're just coming from the joy of doing it. So maybe our purpose in life is to come from the joy of experiencing it, joy of being alive, doing all the things we do. Do it just for the joy of doing it. A lot of new thoughts here. He says, you're not achieving yoga, you are a yogi already. He recognizes something that we teach here in Unity. We don't have to find the divine within us, or look for it, or go look for it outside of us. Rather, it's already there. Rather, our job is to lift the veil that's hiding the experience of it from us. Lift the veils. It's hiding the experience of our unity. And some of the veils could be feelings and needs. Yes, and perhaps experiencing life just for the joy of everything that shows up for us. We lift the veil that lets us be that Christ consciousness or that union with God that we already are, or we're just not experiencing. You are a yogi already, but you disturb the yoga by over and under eating. You just disturb it. It's the golden mean, moderate in eating and recreation, temperate in actions, sleep, and wakefulness. Helps us to uncover the experience of the divine self we already are, but aren't experiencing except maybe in meditation or when we go certain places. My daughter experiences her divine essence when she goes in the woods and is alone with the trees. I'm not sure if she hugs them or not, but she gets that experience there. Have any of you ever had a peak moment in nature? A peak moment? Maybe in a forest? maybe in the sunrise or sunset, maybe in the mountains, maybe in the middle of a calm lake. You see, that divine essence is what was coming forth, and we had that peak experience. It was rather nice, wasn't it, that peak experience? If you're like me, I can remember several peak experiences right now, even though they happened when I was a very young person. I can go right back there and almost be in that consciousness if I choose to. That's that spiritual essence inside of you having been unveiled somehow. You're just there with it. It's wonderful. You're definitely experiencing life with the joy of experiencing it in peak moments, aren't you? Although you're not even thinking. In a peak moment, if you remember, you may not have been thinking very much. You just were there. So you weren't describing it in any way. But we can look back on it. So we look back on it to get an idea about it in our minds, because all these teachings are addressed to our minds and our thinking. So how to associate our minds and the thinking in our minds, experiences in our life. So you're getting a hint now about the two realities. One reality is our conscious ego mind that sees things out there. And maybe there's another reality just as real that comes forth sometimes, which is very, very real. I can't deny that my peak experiences were not real. They were perhaps more real than other instances in my life. Maybe that's a glimpse of what we call another reality, how to call forth that other reality more often. Because in that other reality, we experience more our peace of mind and tranquility, while not being unaware of the regular reality. We're aware of it. Something shows up, we can take action. But somehow we're looking at it from a different place. So that's one of the things we're going to be talking about today and next week. How to be more aware of that other reality while still enjoying everything we do in our current reality, just with a joy of doing it. Thank you, God. I'm alive. Thank you. All right, so the golden mean, he says, any questions? Comments?
It's easy to a large extent anyway, to conceptualize this here in the moment. But when life happens, it's, let's just say it's challenging, and I guess it's going back to center and trying to step away from the belief of the ego and try to let that go, so that, again, try to stay in the flow of life in the middle, being centered.
Yes.
That's not easy.
So as Sam points out, we may have the experience that this is difficult or hard. Could be. So what are the steps to head more and more in this direction? The first step is just to be aware that these sort of things are there, to have some intuition that, this, I got it. So that's an intellectual understanding, so that when the other kind of understanding blossoms forth, we're able to look at it with our intellectual understanding, and importantly, not let our intellectual understanding interfere with it, soil it, or denigrate it, but have our intellectual understanding honor it and respect it. So we need to train our intellectual understanding, and that's what these teachings are for. Train our intellect. So we need to head towards...
Do you use breath work? Like, do you just take a step back and take a deep breath in, relax. That seems to work as a entry to getting back to the stepping back and being more moderate, mindful. Yes.
Take a deep breath. You know, we've heard that very often. Take a deep breath. You know, something's bothering you. Take a deep breath. In all of these practices, each of us will find our own personal way to move in this direction. Maybe through a deep breath and other. We will find a way. Depending on our nature and our nurture, there is a way for us to head in this direction. We just need to be open to whatever that is for us, a deep breath or whatever. Thank you, Sam. Then yoga becomes the destroyer of pain. Now, if I pinch myself, no matter what I think, I still feel the pinch. And when I go in to get the injection, it still pinches. Yet there is a way, according to these scriptures, that we can experience the pain. The pain is no different. Experience it in such a way, I wouldn't use the word destroy, but hold it in a different consciousness. We can't really destroy the pain. I don't know, maybe the yogis in India don't experience any pain. But certainly we can hold it in a different consciousness. To destroy the pain or step back from it means to uncover your yoga, which means ease. When you lose your yoga, you fall into roga, that's a Sanskrit word, which means dis-ease. Satchidananda is such a playful, joyful man, and he loves puns, and he loves to play with words, which is useful. It helps us remember things. To destroy the pain means to uncover your yoga. It's already there. We're all yogis, which means easefulness or ease. When you lose your yoga or lose the experience of it, you fall into roga, which means dis-ease. Dis-ease. Dis-ease means not at ease. We've come to look at dis-ease as meaning infections or heart problems. In a larger sense, dis-ease means anything that takes away our feeling. Easefulness. Lord, may I be easeful and peaceful and useful. That's a very nice prayer you can use. This is Satchidananda's invocation, by the way, not mine. May I be easeful, peaceful, and useful. Not working, picture not working. These will be on the website if you want to review them.
And I would only hyphenate DIS hyphen EASE.
Mm-hmm.
So
You
it gives
can
a
hyphenate
different
it.
context.
Yes, words have a life of their own. Disease has come to mean infections. But in the larger sense, no ease, a lack of ease. Now, this is not to say it's best to take a little bit of anything and everything. That's not moderation. It's not moderation to take a little bit of everything and anything. You don't take a little poison in moderation. There are many foul things lying on the road. So as we strive for a lack of moderation, it doesn't mean we go for it. But the things we do go for. Moderation. Oh my goodness, it's almost 11 o'clock. Let's see what's up next here.
Yeah.
Okay, what is up next are some slokas. So next week we'll go into the slokas. These are more spiritual sayings from the Bhagavad Gita. which amplify and take us through the process to be more aware of both the realities that exist for us all the time. How to get there, what to do, and ultimately how to be more peaceful and tranquil. So we're going to close now by making the sound of Om together, and then we can go to the service. Let's focus on our breath for 3 breaths. Have the deep in breath. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Gomis.